Magic the Gathering just announced a ton of details about the next set coming to Magic, and it is a big one. March of the Machines is set to wrap up the Phyrexian story arc that we've been seeing since all the way back in Kaldheim, and it has a ton of really awesome details that we're going to jump into. This video is just going to cover the main set stuff, not any of the Commander deck stuff, or any of the March of the Machine Aftermath stuff, which are both separate sets that were also talked about, so stay tuned on my channel for a video about that. Alright, so let's jump right into this. So the idea behind March of the Machine is that it's our first multi-planar set, meaning that there are going to be cards with characters from every single plane, and things like the basic lands which they revealed are clearly set on different ones. The swamp looks like it's from Amonkhet, while the mountain looks like it's from Ravnica. They are really taking advantage of this multi-planar set opened up by the praetors invading the other planes. Speaking of praetors, they also revealed every single praetor is getting another card. And in the past we had things like Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, but this time they are just named Elish Norn, Jin-Gitaxias, Urabrask, and they look really, really awesome. Now, in the past, they've always had this design of like one ability that like doubles your stuff and one ability that stops your opponent's stuff normally. Now, these ones work completely differently, and they get us into two major mechanics that were revealed today. First off, sagas, which have kind of become a thing that's just in a lot of Magic sets, but more importantly, transforming double-faced cards. These are not modal double-faced, meaning they always start on the front, but then they flip. And you can see that on the first spoiler that they revealed, which is Jin-Gitaxias. It is a 5-cost legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor 5/5 with Ward 2, and it says whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, draw a card. That's already really, really good. Then you can pay 4 mana and exile it and return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery and only if you have 7 or more cards in hand. Then it comes in as the Great Synthesis, which lets you draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand, and then you have no max hand size for as long as you control the Great Synthesis. Then, the next phase, return all non-Phyrexian creatures to their owner's hand, which is actually one of the first times we're seeing like Phyrexian tribal support. Then, number 3, you may cast any number of spells from your hand without paying their mana cost, and then exile the Great Synthesis and return it to the battlefield face up. So, you can keep doing this. It is a very powerful effect. This seems like something that'd be really good in a control deck, and it looks like all of the praetors are going to have this saga mode that'll then maybe flip them back to their original mode. Either way, this card in particular looks really, really good, and it really gets me excited for the set, because there's a lot of interesting designs going on here, but it is a lot of text, and that is something I'm worried about, but that's a topic for a different video. One theme was very clear throughout the presentation, and that's that we are definitely getting characters from other planes besides New Phyrexia. The first one they showed off was actually Heliod, who is a god from Theros. It's a 4-drop white legendary enchantment creature god, and it says, when it enters the battlefield, return target enchantment card that isn't a god from your graveyard to your hand. Then you can pay 4 mana and transform him, one of it being Phyrexian Blue, into Heliod the Warped Eclipse. This is a 4/6, and it says you may cast spells as though they had flash, and spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. This card seems really, really good. It is a very, atypical card for Heliod. Heliod typically cares about life gain and typically has some form of indestructibility or not being a creature or both, and this doesn't have that. So it's really interesting to see how this set is taking characters from other sets, but not necessarily bringing back their mechanics. For example, Heliod does not care about devotion, which is kind of an interesting one. They also revealed some of the commons and the non-legendaries. We have Moment of Truth, which is 1 in a blue for an instant, and it says look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand, 1 into your graveyard, and 1 on the bottom of your library. This is a Power Crept Anticipate. Typically putting cards in your graveyard is almost always an upside, because in your graveyard you may be able to interact with it. The bottom of your library is typically untouchable, so it's kind of just interesting to see cards like this also get spoiled at this point. There's also some pretty juicy flavor text on there. They also revealed some art for a cycle of cards called the Invasion of cycle. So we have the Invasion of Lorwyn, the Invasion of Tarkir, the Invasion of Chandalar, the Invasion of Mercadia, and the Invasion of Alara. Then they went and revealed a couple of the characters, which they're actually teaming up on a lot of cards. So for example, we have Drana and Linvala. It is 1 white, white, black for a legendary creature, Vampire Angel, 3/4 with flying and vigilance. And it says activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. And Drana and Linvala have all activated abilities of all creatures your opponents control. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities. Kind of reminds me of Elish Norn shutting down your opponents and then giving you the advantage. But this is kind of an interesting commander where you're going to hope your opponents have lots of activated abilities. It does kind of feel like a mean card, so I'm not necessarily loving it, but it is cool to see multiple characters on one card, and we get some weird creature types because of that. For example, we got Vampire Angel. Next, we got Yargle and Multani, which is 3 black, black, green for an 18/6 Frog Spirit Elemental. And that's about it. It's all flavor text, right in Yargle fashion, and it's really cool to see characters like Yargle return, who Yargle I feel like has kind of become a fan favorite at this point. Speaking of fan favorite, we have Thalia and the Gitrog monster. It's 1 white, black, and a green for a legendary creature, human frog horror, 4/4 with First Strike and Death Touch, which is a deadly combo. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. And whenever Thalia and the Gitrog monster attacks, sacrifice a creature or land, then draw a card. So it's kind of like a mix. I feel like, Thalia is normally a kind of stacksy piece. Gitrog cares about sacking lands. It's kind of combining them in a really interesting way. We get the First Strike from Thalia, we get the Death Touch from the Gitrog monster, and I think this is a really interesting way to combine them. One thing I really quickly want to note, and this is something I noticed first on this card, normally in the bottom left it shows like the card number out of the total number of cards, and this one has 4 digits for the card numbers, so we may be seeing over 1,000 versions of cards in this singular set, which would be utterly insane. They also don't show an out of anymore, so don't know if that's just for spoilers or what's happening there, but that's kind of interesting to see. Alright, and our last major spoiler is Chandra, Hope's Beacon. It's 4 red red for a legendary planeswalker Chandra, enters with 5 loyalty, and it says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. So you get to copy the first spell you cast each turn, then you can +2 it to add 2 mana in any combination of colors, which seems pretty good. You can +1 it to exile the top 5 cards of your library. And then until the end of your next turn, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from among the exiled cards. So you do have to hit an instant or sorcery and you only get to cast 1, but 5 is going really deep into your library. Then you can -X and Chandra deals X damage to each of up to 2 targets. So that can be players' faces, creatures, other planeswalkers. Overall, this seems like a really good Chandra in a Spells Matter deck. If you have a Spells Matter deck, consider looking at this card. And it wouldn't be a Magic reveal event if they didn't talk about all the various versions of cards you can find. Of course, you can find Borderless and Extended like we've been able to see in previous sets, but we're also seeing the return of the Ichor treatment on things like Jin-Gitaxias, and we all know the jokes. Oh, there's too many versions of cards and like this style and that style. And March of the Machine serves to one-up every set before it by returning every variant we've ever seen, pretty much, to the set. So, for example, Jin-Gitaxias has the Ichor treatment because it is a card from New Phyrexia. But that Heliod we were talking about has the, Constellation-style treatment that we saw back with Theros Beyond Death. And Yargle has the Stained Glass treatment. And Thalia and the Gitrog monster have the Innistrad treatment. They also revealed Ghalta and Mavren, one of which is actually the bundle promo, but they also revealed the version in this really awesome, art style here that they said Ixalan didn't have a treatment last time we went to it, but guess what? That is our set in approximately 2 full sets from now, so this will probably be the style to expect when we actually get to that set. Either way, Ghalta and Mavren is 3 green green, white white for a 12/12 legendary creature dinosaur vampire with trample. And then whenever you attack, you create a tapped an attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures, or you can choose create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. So you can either go big or you can go wide, and I think that's a really cool card, and I think the style looks really, really cool. We also see the return of the Zendikar Rising frame with Omnath, Locus of All. It is white, blue, Phyrexian black, red, green, and we finally have a Wooburg Omnath this time completed, and it's for a legendary creature Phyrexian Elemental. It says if you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols in its mana cost. If you do, add 3 mana in any combination of its colors and put it into your hand. If you don't reveal it, put it into your hand. So essentially, at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you are going to draw an extra card, and if it is a card with 3 or more mana pips, you get to add 3 mana to help cast it. Plus, you also don't lose mana, it all becomes black mana, and that, color fixing that Omnath is doing there is going to help you cast those spells. Overall, this seems like it's going to be a crazy powerful commander. Look at things like Crewfix, which is limited to 2 colors, and it's really, really good. Omnath here is going to do the exact same thing, but make it black instead of colorless, and he is Wooburg, so he has access to all of the colors. And because he has Phyrexian cost, he's really only a 4-drop. So I think this card is going to be insane. It's also the buy box promo, which actually should help bring prices down. But yeah, that only leaves us with one last major reveal, and that is the Multiverse Legends. This is essentially a slot in each booster, similar to how the Retro Frame artifacts worked, where you are going to find, really powerful old creatures in that slot in the frame from the set they come from. And they gave us two spicy examples. We got Atraxa, Praetor's voice in the new Capenna style, and then we also got Ragavan in the Masterpiece style from Kaladesh. Both of these cards are crazy expensive, and if they are going to be reprinted at the same rate as the Retro Frame artifacts, which it sounds like they are, these things are going to crash in price. That is going to make Ragavan way more accessible, Atraxa way more accessible, and not that I necessarily want to be playing against these cards, but Magic is a game first, and so the pieces being accessible to play with is cool, and seeing these cards in frames they've never been in before is also really awesome. But of course, this also does increase the number of styles we have, yada yada. I'm going to read it word for word. They say, Blake and Dave discuss the bonus sheet in MTG Machine, and this one is Multiversal Legends, a non-standard legal bonus sheet like the Mystical Archive or Retro Artifact of the Brothers War. So they're directly comparing them to that, so I would expect one of these in every pack. Some of them are going to be uncommons and not nearly as good as these, but still really, really crazy. All right, that's it for the main set. Stay tuned for 2 more videos today, one where I talk about the Commander decks, and one where I talk about the set after March of the Machine, the Aftermath, which, to give you a little preview, is a 50-card set with 5-pack booster packs. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.